So we're going to talk about how you actually apply this rubric in the context of the actual categories that show up in the grade book. In the first one, let's do content mastery, which accounts for about 30% of the overall grade of the student in the class, as demonstrated by things like projects, quizzes, and tests. Now, quizzes will be called villains, tests will be called bosses, and projects will be called quests, just to make it fun and game-like. But in any given unit, the student will be given multiple opportunities to target the skills which are listed. And if that's still not enough, the student can resubmit things once getting feedback or ask for re-examinations when possible. And I also want to mention that in later units, I might put some questions on the tests that revisit these skills to check for consistency. Because remember, in order to score higher on that scale, you need to be doing so in a variety of contexts and consistently and independently. That's how you get those fours and those fives, right? So let's see an example of how that would look like using the first unit of the year as an example. So this is how the biology portfolio kind of looks like, except this is the version that I filled in that shows the options that a student can do for any given standard. So if I go to unit one, I can see that there's four content standards, A, B, C, and D. Using the first standard as an example, which is functions in earth and living systems, let's say the student does the first activity that's on the lesson one, but does a poor job and cannot finish the activity without help. And so the best, but they do it, and eventually they get a one. So not a not yet, they did something, but they couldn't demonstrate mastery without help. So that's a one on the scale, right? But let's say by the time they get to the actual quiz, they do it without help, but they don't quite demonstrate mastery of the grade level skills. So they get a two. Now, by the time they get to the boss, maybe they also get a three, right? They actually demonstrated mastery. They studied harder, and now they are actually at mastery. Remember, three means you have independently, without many errors or omissions, demonstrated mastery. So that's good. But now you still at best have a three for the skill because he only did that once. If they also do it on the project, right? Let's say they do it, but they get a two. Now they uh, they can feel bad because they still didn't get mastery on a second thing, so the maximum they can get is a three. But let's say they resubmit based on the feedback and actually get a three for a project. Now they've done a project and a test that's more than one time across different contexts. They could actually score overall for this skill a five, which would be the highest level of the scale because at least twice they demonstrated that skill in a variety of contexts. And they could have chosen to do these side quests, which are extra projects or explorations from the textbook or the unit connection at the end of the unit in order to have more evidence in a variety of contexts to convince me to give them a five for that skill. So the portfolio will list every assignment they did and what they scored. If they scored proficient levels in more than one assignment, that's a four consistently, right? And if they did so in a variety of contexts or topics, that's how they get that five. And if they want to get a six, they have to ask me to go above and beyond the grade level expectations. So they have to talk to me about that for some extra credit. So that's how it works applied to content skills. In a future video, I'm going to talk about how different content skills are averaged together to determine the overall grade for content. I'll see you guys then.